Expeditions Viking is one of my favorite games so far this year. I know, it's kind of weird. I'm being positive about video games. Doesn't happen too often. It happens more often than you'd think. I just end up covering games that I don't like more often because I have more to say about them. But, you know, I've got lots to say about this one, though. So, Expeditions Viking is a general CRPG style game set in a historical Norse land where you play a Viking. You're kind of like the, I don't know, is it the Thane? The Thane of your village? I'm gonna go with Thane, the leader. The guy who sleeps in the big longhouse and gets all the wenches he wants, I guess. And you're playing through the game. Your whole goal is to basically go on an expedition across the sea to go get riches and defenses and stuff so that other thanes and neighboring places don't decide that they want to plunder and loot your village. So your solution to that is to go plunder and loot other people's villages and do various CRPG style things. And it does it very well, to be honest. I have been enjoying my time playing it because I really like CRPGs. I think Pillars of Eternity is one of my favorite games in the last couple years, and this game feels very similar. You know, it is very standard. I guess there was another game that these guys had made before. It was like Expeditions Conquistador or something like that. And apparently that game was good, so there's a bit of a hype surrounding this one and stuff. And I had never heard of the first game. I'd never heard of Conquistador at all. And then I ended up playing this one, and I was like, oh, this is actually really well done, for the most part. So the combat in the game is very turn-based. It's kind of like more akin to XCOM than anything. It doesn't roll the dice to see who goes first. It's like the enemy gets their turn, and then you get your turn, and you move all your guys, and they move all their guys. You have lots of activated abilities in hotkey bars and stuff like that, so that's also there. You get things like, if you're using a bow, which my main character is, because bows are actually kind of super powerful so far in the game, then you can put your bow guys to go into, like, Overwatch. Did I say bow guys? I meant archers, by the way. That was the dumbest thing I've ever said. So you can do that, or you can do, like, double shots and single shots, and depending on if your enemies or your characters are utilizing cover and where they are on the map and other passive abilities and stuff, that can affect, like, your hit chances and stuff like that. Then you have melee characters, which is the majority of who you'll be fighting and using in the game. They usually have different abilities too, like there's standard attacks, of course. Then you have like stuns and shield pulls and stuff, so you can like unshield enemies. That's kind of cool. And things like that. Like, it's pretty much what you'd expect from a turn-based tactical RPG, you know? The combat, as you can see, you get like two different phases. There's like movement phase and attack phase. You can move like to the edge of the green and still attack, but if you can't, then you're boned. And stuff like that. Like, there's nothing going on in it that's super revolutionary, but there is a couple things that are being done really well in it. I think the thing I'm enjoying the most in this game, and you see me, you saw me turn it on earlier, was the non-lethal mode. So in this game, if you want to, you could pretty much play the game completely non-lethal, and whereas other games would do that by not letting you go into combat, you can literally just make it so your characters don't kill anyone. You won't do critical hits or anything, but you can still, like, take them out and do your regular damage nonetheless, and it'll just knock them out. And depending on the quests that you do and the situations and stuff, there can be an advantage to that. Like, you can talk to them afterwards and stuff, or you'll be given access to different dialogue options that you wouldn't have before, and there's a reason to do it. And I really like that, because when I play RPGs, especially CRPGs, I usually, at least in my first playthrough, try to be kind of the good guy, and I try to avoid combat if I can, because I don't want to kill people unless absolutely necessary. The nice thing about this game is that it's kind of got me more willing to do combat than it usually does in games like this, because when I'm playing this one, I can just be like, hey, I don't want to kill these guys, but I can still fight them and take them out, and if they piss me off, but not piss me off enough to kill them, I can still, you know, like, attack them, knock them out, be a general dick, but, like, not so much of a dick that I'm just a murdering, marauding rampager. So, that's something I like in RPGs, the non-lethal option. I wish more of them would include that. Like, if Pillars of Eternity 2 had that, that'd be super awesome. Can't wait to play that game. This one might tide me over for a while, though. It's generally pretty well made. Like I said, I love little aspects like that. There's some really interesting quests going on and stuff, too. The characters are neat. The dialogue is very 21st century, I've noticed. So, when the characters talk and stuff, and a lot of the things they say, especially the quips and stuff, I just burped. I don't know if you caught that on the mic or not. That was really unprofessional, but you know what? Deal with it. When they get into those, like those little quips, like when you're wandering around the map and the characters will talk to each other and stuff, and you learn a bit about them, it's very 21st century lingo in how they talk, and this game kind of markets itself as being historical, so it's a little bit jarring to go through, to be entirely honest. It's not bad, it's just kind of odd. The characters also have, I'm assuming they have old, like, Norlandic accents to them, and it sounds weird when they're talking with, like, normal speak, when they're saying words like cool and stuff. It sounds odd, basically. But that's pretty nitpicky. Other stuff in it, I have a couple problems with how the combat goes sometimes. Like, when you go into combat, there are certain times where if the enemy team gets to move first, you just lose one of your characters right away, because they all attack him and then he dies. And it feels a little bit unfair. It's not a big deal, honestly, but it is something that I've run into a couple times. The other thing I'm not super into is that they seem to be missing a few animations and stuff. Like, it doesn't seem like the game is totally finished when it comes to, like, some activated abilities in combat and stuff. So, like, the Demoralize or a few other activated abilities will all use the exact same animation. And there doesn't seem to be any, like, voice work that goes with it. They just kind of go, huh, 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 or something like that. It doesn't sound right, is what I'm saying, if that makes any sense. Something else I've noticed as well is that when enemies are taken out of combat, or when your characters die, it seems to have a bug in it right now where sometimes when men die, they sound like women, like they scream like women, and then sometimes when women die, they'll yell like a really gruff man scream, and it's kind of funny, but it's really weird. Like, I've had, like, I had to knock out some kids that were in this guy's homestead because they wouldn't leave. And when one of the little girls died, she was like, and that was, you know, funny, but it was still kind of a problem. So, that was a thing. I do like the historical aspects. Like I just said, like, I had to go and take out a bunch of not little kids, they were probably like 14 years old in the game, knock them out and stuff. The game's historical, and back then, you know, things like that, not commonplace, but they happen, so the game doesn't really throw any punches. There's a lot to do with slaves and stuff in this game as well, and it tries to be pretty true to Norse way of life back then, which I can respect. Aside from how the characters talk and stuff, that, again, that's a little bit jarring. The game crashed right here, by the way, too, so that was a thing that happened. They might want to fix that. I don't know why it crashed. It seemed like it was trying to load, like, the inside cell or something, and it messed up. But other than that, that's the only crash I've experienced. So that's pretty good, right? I don't know. I like it. It's getting 2 thumbs up, despite the awkward end to this footage.